Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto activated Iron Sand Bloodline, and got Harem with female Kyuubi Kurenai movie. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Holy Fox Boy, link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. October 10th to 8th years old, Naruto stared at the black sand that danced around his body, as he waited for the Sandaime Hokage, who he calls Old Man, to come back into his office. He had been attacked again today by drunken villagers, and a few shinobi. Before they could hurt him though, this black sand appeared in front of him, and protected him from the drunks. The weird people with masks, which the old man said were called ANBU, saved him before any more trouble could happen. They also arrested all the drunks, and took him to the Hokage's office, though it took a while to get him there since he had to walk, as the sand refused to let anyone touch him. The old man said he was going to explain what the weird sand was, but his secretary came in, and said that the council had summoned him. He said that he would be back soon, and explain what happened. Naruto was broken out of his thoughts, as he saw something out of the corner of his eyes. He turned to see that the sand had been taking different shapes, as he thought. He slowly, and carefully raised his hand, and willed the sand to come to him. Since he was still slightly scared, and confused of the sand, he jumped when it did what he wanted. When he saw that it would do what he wanted, his confusion increased, but the scared feeling he had disappeared, and was replaced with excitement. He spent the next hour playing, and making shapes with the sand. He made different animals' shapes, and things that he had seen around the village. He was interrupted in his playtime by the old man coming into the office with a tired and furious look on his face. Naruto watched, as he walked to his desk, and sat in his chair before pulling out his pipe, and lit it. He took a breath of the lung-damaging smoke before turning to Naruto to see that his sand was still circling his feet in an almost lazy manner. He took another breath before he heard Naruto say, Old man, what did the council want?" Sarutobi looked at Naruto, as he thought back to the meeting. Flashback. Sarutobi walked calmly toward the council chamber. He had an idea about what the meeting was about, and he was going to stop it. When he entered the chamber, the members of the council quieted, as the third fire shadow sat in his seat before he turned his attention to them. "Now then, could someone tell me what this is about? I am busy." A fat council member stood up. You could tell by the way he stood, and carried himself, that he was a civilian, and was arrogant. "Hokage-sama, it has come to our attention that the Dem." He stopped when Sarutobi glared at him before he continued. "It has come to our attention that the boy known as Naruto Uzumaki was attacked again. This time though something interesting happened." Sarutobi narrowed his eyes at this. He knew the council would try to use Naruto as a breeding factory if they knew of Naruto's bloodline. When he was attacked, he stopped the attackers. "Is this true?" Sarutobi's face was blank, as he answered, "Yes." "How is that possible though? The only sand users are from sand, and there are not that many to begin with." The monkey summoner rubbed his temples. He could feel a headache coming. He was hoping to tell them after Naruto had been trained in his bloodline at least somewhat. Naruto Uzumaki possesses a bloodline that allows him to control iron sand, just like the third Kazekage. The room erupted in chaos after that. He heard many people, mostly civilians, saying to use the boy as a breeding factory, while others wanted to use him as a weapon. Danzo, he felt his head hurt worse before he shouted, "Shut up, and sit down." Everyone did, as Sarutobi released his killing intent. "Will be KI from now on," and glared at the members. "I will not use Naruto as a breeding factory or as a weapon. He will live his life as he chooses. Now none of you are to tell the village of Naruto's bloodline until he has had some training in it. You fail to follow this rule, you will be killed without trial. That is all, dismissed." He turned, and headed back to his office, as he ignored the cries of outrage from the civilian council. He mentally patted his back for keeping a straight face. End flashback. Sarutobi shook his head before telling Naruto that it wasn't important before he went to the back vault. Naruto saw that he was carrying a small scroll with the Uzumaki swirl on it that he also had on his black pants and red shirt. "This Naruto-kun was written by your mother before she died. She died giving birth to you. And before you ask, the letter she wrote will explain why I did not tell you sooner." Sarutobi handed the scroll to Naruto, and watched, as he opened it carefully, like it was a fragile glass object. "Dear Naruchan, hello Naruchan, my name is Kushina Uzumaki. If you are reading this, then you have unlocked your bloodline. Now before I tell you what it is, let me tell you where our clan came from. Our clan was originally from the land of iron. We could control iron sand, and it acted as an absolute defense. This means that it would protect us from any and all threats. Now this does not mean that we were all powerful. The defense is only so fast. You see, the more chakra you fuse with the sand, the faster it will get. This allows it to protect us faster, and use less chakra to get it to do what we want. Since the chakra is fused with the sand, it will only obey the person who fuses the chakra with it. Now enough of that, you will get to read more about it later. Now our clan left Iron some hundreds of years ago. Most of us went to the land of the whirlpools, while a small amount went to the village hidden in the sand. During the Third Ninja War though, the village hidden in the rock attacked our land for its resources and the trade routes. I was the only survivor of the attack, and I was able to save most of our history scroll, and, after that I traveled to Konoha. I became a ninja here, and met your father a few years after I settled in. It was love at first sight. We dated, but we had to keep it a secret since we had both gained enemies during the war, both in the village and outside it. I was so happy the day I learned I was pregnant with you. I would talk with your father and Saruchan about what I was going to teach you, and everything, but unfortunately the world is not always fair. The Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked our village. Because of its potent chakra I went into premature labor. The doctors had told me that I had lost a lot of blood and would not survive. So I had Saruchan get all the scrolls I saved on our clan, and I sealed them into this scroll at the bottom. Now do not blame yourself for my death. It was not your fault no matter what you say. Remember this though, I will always love you, and I will watch over you as you grow into the great ninja and man that I know you will become. Also find yourself a good wife and live a happy life. I wish you luck on your journey, and I love you. Your loving mother, Kushina Uzumaki. P.S. If you meet a man named Jiraiya, kick him in the crotch for me. Naruto did not bother to stop the tears of happiness and sadness that fell down his whiskered cheeks. Happiness because he now knew that he had a mother that loved him, and sadness because he wouldn't be able to meet her. The old man hugged him, and he cried on his shoulder until he calmed down. When he was calmed down enough, he asked if his mother had a house or apartment. He saw the smile at him as he nodded. He whooped in joy as the old man chuckled. Once Naruto had stopped, Sarutobi gave him directions to the apartment, and the keys along with directions to unseal the items and the 2 storage seals. Sarutobi also added to Kushina's scroll that he knew would come in handy for Naruto on his path. Sarutobi chuckled as he watched Naruto run to his mother's apartment as the sand circled him. When he saw the sand he thought, why did the sand let me hug Naruto? A while ago the Anbu could not even get too close to him without it lashing out at them. He pushed that out of his mind before he turned back to his greatest enemy, paperwork. Naruto stared at the 2 storage seals that were located at the bottom of his mother's letter. He was sitting on his mother's old bed in her apartment as he stared at them. He found that the apartment was nice, but it also had a comfortable and safe feel to it. He had a kitchen, bathroom, and a living room. It also had a spare bedroom, but he had no use for it now. As Naruto looked at the seals, he remembered that one of these had the history of his clan. Maybe I can find more information on my bloodline. With that thought in mind, he bit his thumb enough to draw blood and swiped it across the left seal. The seal glowed before a puff of smoke appeared above the seal. When it dissipated, Naruto saw a scroll that had the kanji for history written on it. He grabbed it and opened the scroll to see multiple slots with kanji for different timelines of the clan. He saw one that was different though. The first slot had the kanji for bloodline. His eyes lit up with excitement before he bit his thumb again, as it had healed already, and swiped it across the bloodline slot. A cloud of smoke appeared, followed by the appearance of a gray scroll that read Iron Sand Bloodline on it. Our favorite blonde picked up the scroll before opening it, which required blood to open, and started to read it. Iron Sand Bloodline. The Iron Sand Bloodline that the Uzumaki clan possesses does not actually control Iron Sand. The Uzumaki clan is able to turn their chakra into a magnetic field which allows them to control any metal object. We are able to crush the metal into tiny grains, like sand, and then control that iron sand with our magnetic field. This also protects us from weapons that are made from metal. We can stop any non-melee weapon that is made of metal that is thrown at us. Now the bigger the object is, the more chakra that we have to use to stop it. Also, if you fuse your chakra with your sand, it will obey your commands faster. We control it by willing it to move. It is better to put the sand into a gourd, which can also be made out of the iron sand, and then spend about a week fusing your chakra with it so that it will obey only you. We do this since some other clan members have accidentally taken control of another sand in the past. Now, one thing that is rare in our clan is that some are able to use the sand using instinct. This turns our Iron Sand bloodline into an ultimate defense. This happens because when our instincts pick up danger or a threat, the sand will react without your help. Of course, this means that your magnetic field will be up as well, so you will have to learn how to stop random metal objects from jumping at you. One more thing, most of our clan uses lightning. I hope you use this information well and succeed in our clan. Naruto was jumping with excitement. He had an awesome bloodline. Wait, if what this says is true, then why is my sand still moving? Also, why aren't other metal objects coming towards me? This was true, as Naruto's sand was still circling around him, and he happened to have a few metal spoons and forks lying around. Maybe the old man will know why my sand is acting like this. With that thought in mind, Naruto headed to bed. As Naruto slept, his sand continued circling around him, protecting its master. Hokage Tower. The next day, Naruto walked excitedly towards the tower before knocking on the Hokage's door. He waited for the old man to let him in before entering. He saw him working on his paperwork, and waited for the old man to stop. Unfortunately, children Naruto's age are easily distracted, and Naruto was no exception to this. He started to make different shapes with his sand, which had continued to stay with him. He stopped though when he remembered something from his mother's scroll. The scroll said that the sand would obey his command if he willed it. Did that mean that he could move his creations? He quickly made a fox, and willed it to move around the room. The fox suddenly sprang to life, and started to move around the room. Naruto laughed quietly to himself, and started to make different animals, and had them all moving around the room. Sarutobi looked up 5 minutes later to address the person who entered. Instead, he saw something unexpected. He saw multiple animals made of black sand moving around the room, playing, fighting, or sleeping. He had to duck though when a small black sandy dragon came at him. He looked up again to see Naruto standing in the middle of the room with his black iron sand swirling slowly around him. He also had a small smile on his face. Sarutobi just shook his head before addressing the small bundle of energy. "What can I help you with, Naruto-kun?" Naruto proceeded to tell him about the scroll, and his questions. When he was finished, he waited for the old man to answer. Sarutobi thought for a moment before he thought he found an answer. "Is Kyuubi doing this? If it is, then how is it doing it?" The monkey summoner thought for another moment before looking at Naruto. "Well, Naruto-kun, I think I know the answer to your question. Unfortunately, I will not tell you until you are at or at least level. Is that okay with you?" Naruto smiled slightly, and nodded even though he was disappointed that he could not know. Sarutobi saw this, but he had something that would help him later. Naruto watched, as Sarutobi pulled a piece of paper out of his desk before handing it to Naruto. He looked at it, and his eyes lit up with excitement and happiness. It was a training schedule. First year practice training with iron sand, and metal manipulating, and second year physical training with weights, and taijutsu training, and chakra control exercises. Third year taijutsu, and mastering. Fourth year mastering iron sand control, and metal manipulating. Fifth year elemental affinity manipulating training. Naruto hugged the old man, as he said thank you over and over. Said old man just chuckled at this. Once he got him settled down, Sarutobi started to explain the schedule. "Now then, Naruto-kun, I have made this list to help you focus on one subject, and not try and do a lot at one time. Now in the scroll that your mother left you, I was able to add one more that will help you immensely in your training." Sarutobi paused to make sure that Naruto had his attention on him before continuing. "Now once you learn this, you are to use it to help you with what you are scheduled to do, except when you train with your weights. You may use this to help you master what you learned this year, and the control of your sand and metal." Sarutobi waited for Naruto to absorb this before asking, "Now do you have any questions?" Naruto thought for a moment before asking, "Where can I find some weights? I will also need a training ground that I can train in peace of mind. Also, could I have a book on storage seals and blood storage seals?" Sarutobi nodded, but he had a questioning look on his face about the last one. He made a list of stores where he could find some weights, but he recommended one store in particular. He also wrote down directions to a training ground that no one used. Lastly, he handed a book to Naruto. Naruto looked at it, and saw that the book was titled, Types of Storage Seals, and Their Uses. Naruto smiled happily before hugging the old monkey, and then bolting to his house to get his mother's scroll, and then to get started. 30 minutes later, Training Ground 9. Once Naruto entered the clearing, he was amazed that this beautiful training ground was not being used. He saw a beautiful lake a little off to the side with a waterfall connected to it. There were also trees surrounding the clearing, and it had a very thick log off to one side. Naruto smiled happily. He now had a place that he could train without interruption. First, he got out his mother's scroll, and unsealed the right seal. After the smoke cleared, he unsealed the scroll that came out, and saw that it also had slots. Unlike the history one, though, this scroll had each rank in a different slot. Though 3 had different kanjis, they were the 3 slots at the end. One had the kanji for gift, the other one had the kanji for instructions, and the last had the kanji for taijutsu. So the one for the gift must be from the old man. But what is the other one for? Naruto bit his thumb, and swiped it over the seal that had the kanji for instructions. Once the smoke cleared, Naruto broke the seal on the scroll, and started to read. Dear Naruchan, hello Naruchan. If you are reading this, then Saruchan has given you my letter. I wrote this to give you some advice on our bloodline. Now first off, learn about seals. You don't have to be a master, but I want you to at least learn about storage seals. If you do, you can store things on your body. I did this when I was alive to carry things easily. Second, I want you to make more than 1 gourd of sand. Most of our clan had at least 2, but I had enough chakra and time that I was able to make 3. Though I have a feeling that you will be able to make more. Third, I want you to seal the extra gourds into seals that you put on your arms since it is easier to get them out if they are on your arms. Fifth, I want you to be creative when you use your sand and ration. Here is a hint. Combination is a great asset. That is all I have. I hope you take my advice and become a great ninja. Love, Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto wiped the tear off his cheek before smiling. I guess great minds think alike since I had that very idea. Though I do not know how many gourds I should make. Well, I do have a little less than 3 months to make and control the sand. Of course, I don't need to learn to control them all since once I have my control up I will be able to control the sand the same. With that in mind, Naruto resealed the scroll and unsealed Sandame's gift. Our blonde fox boy broke the seal on the scroll that popped out and read that as well. I hope this will help you in your future, Naruto-kun. Sincerely, Hiruzen Sarutobi aka Sandame Hokage, Shadow Clone Jutsu. This creates clones that are actual copies, not illusions. The user's chakra is evenly distributed among every clone, giving each clone an equal fraction of the user's overall power. The clones are capable of performing on their own, and can even bleed, but will usually disperse after 1 or 2 solid blows. They can also disperse on their own. Any extra chakra the clone has when it disperses is also returned to the original. The clones will be created in roughly the same condition as the original. It is also useful for training since when the clone is dismissed or destroyed the original gains the clone's experience. Warning: do not dismiss a great number of clones at once. It will damage the user's brain. Below the description showed that it only had one seal in the shape of a cross. Naruto smiled at the possibilities of this. He could have his clones make the iron, and then have them fuse their chakra with the sand. He would be able to control it since it was basically his own chakra. While his clones were doing that, he could work with some more clones on which his mom left him. Another group of clones could work on the metal manipulation. Naruto giggled happily to himself before he started to work on the 5 hours later, Naruto smiled as he panted. He did it. He could now use them. Though he was able to use it on his first try, he ended up making about 500. So he dismissed them quickly since they did not have any experience to give him, and started to work on making one. It turned out to be a lot harder than he thought, but he was able to do it. Once his breath was back, he headed home and got ready for bed. I am going to have to go to that shop the old man mentioned tomorrow and buy some metal. Good thing mom left me a ton of money. With that final thought, Naruto drifted off to sleep. 5 years later. Shut up and sit down. Naruto chuckled as he watched his classmates rush to their seats so that they could avoid Iruka-sensei's wrath. It was graduation day at the Shinobi Academy. Naruto tuned out Iruka's speech as he thought about the past 5 years. He had changed in that time. He now had baggy black pants and a short-sleeved crimson muscle shirt along with crimson shinobi sandals. He now had a large gourd strapped to his back, as well to carry the iron sand with him. The weight training it provided was an extra bonus. He also had 4 blood storage seals on each of his arms, though he did have one other blood seal with a picture of his mother that she left for him. His hair had grown slightly with the bangs tips even with his eyes. His eyes were the same except for the fox-like slit in the middle of each eye. The whisker marks on his cheeks were also bigger and more defined, and he had lost some of his baby fat as well. He also had claws on his hands and toes as well, along with fangs that barely poked out of his mouth. He had learned a lot over the years from his mother's scrolls. He had mastered every E, D, and C rank jutsu that his mother had. He could even do a few of the B and A rank jutsus as well. He had almost mastered control of his sand as well, but he still had a ways to go on that. His taijutsu was pretty good too, in his opinion. He had to make it himself since his mother did not have one sealed, as she believed that you have to find a style that fits you or make one. He was interesting. At least that was what Iruka said. He mixed the fox style with the use of his sand. For the fox style you had to be fast and have agility, which he surprisingly did. The person would use fast strikes on their opponent to disable or cripple them. His sand would block attacks from the enemy while he could continue to attack. He would also use the sand to cover his hands and feet to make claws for extra damage. He was okay, but his control would have to be the same as a medic's for him to be able to do higher level, but he could break all places on him with help. That though is for another time. He was able to add a gravity seal to his person over the years as well. The old man Hokage had helped him put it in place a few years ago. This resulted in him gaining a bit of muscle over the years. Of course, this also attracted scary monsters, fangirls, though thankfully most were still after Sasuke Uchiha. He shivered when he remembered when they came after him one day. He was barely able to get away from them. He was broken out of his thoughts when he heard Iruka yelling at him. Did you say something, Iruka-sensei? The class laughed as Iruka's sweat dropped. He coughed into his hand before he spoke. Yes, I did. It is your turn to take the test. Naruto groaned as he walked to Iruka. He hated tests. While he wasn't at the bottom of the class, he wasn't at the top. He would guess that he would be somewhere in the middle, He looked up at Iruka when he was in front of him, and waited for him to continue. Well, I need you to use the replacement, clone, and finally turn into anyone with the transformation. You can also use another for extra credit. Naruto nodded before doing the correct seals, and replacing himself with a chair before reversing it again. He started doing seals again, as he called out, Iron Sand Release, Metallic Clone Jutsu. Iron Sand exited his gourd before forming 5 clones. The clones smiled before dispersing, and the sand then returned to his gourd. He paused, and thought about who to turn into. After a few seconds he smiled before doing the transformation hand seals. He was surrounded by smoke, and the class looked on to see who he turned into. When the smoke cleared, the class gasped. In front of them was a beautiful woman. She had a heart-shaped face, fiery red hair that fell down her back like a waterfall. She had deep green eyes, and had on a beautiful crimson kimono. The kimono showed her hourglass-like figure. All in all, she was a vision of beauty. A couple of boys whistled while the other looked stunned. Naruto, on the other hand, had to stop himself from attacking the one who whistled. He released them before doing more seals, and calling out his next, lightning release, static shock jutsu. He reached out, and touched Iruka. As the static released into his body, Iruka twitched slightly, as electricity sprang from his now spiky ball-like hair. Naruto smiled with barely contained laughter, as Iruka glared at him. Once Iruka's hair was back to normal, or, as normal as he could get it, as it was still stuck up in random places, he said, Well, you passed, Naruto. Congratulations. Please pick up your headband, and return to your seat. Naruto nodded, and did just that, though he did notice that Sasuke glared at him as he sat down. Naruto sighed. Sasuke was always like this after the Uchiha massacre. One day when he was practicing one of his lightning strikes at the academy, Sasuke saw him, and demanded that he teach it to him. Naruto of course refused. Sasuke attacked him, and his sand reacted. He was smashed into the ground over and over. When Naruto was able to get the sand to stop, as he still had trouble stopping it when people attacked him, Sasuke walked off. Since that day, Sasuke would glare at him whenever he could. Naruto shook his head, and ignored him, and turned at Iruka's speech, though he did hear that they were to be back here at 10 a.m. to be sorted into their teams. Once the bell rang, the blonde demon container headed out to the forest before using his iron sand body flicker jutsu to get to his mother's, now his, apartment. Naruto's apartment. Naruto smiled, as he appeared in his living room before taking off his sandals, and heading to his kitchen. Once there, he opened his fridge, and grabbed the leftover rice and curry that he had made. As he started the microwave, he thought back to when he was little. He mostly ate ramen back then, but he had learned to cook over the last 5 years. Now he could make meals instead of relying on ramen. While he did eat it every now and then, he ate it sparingly now, though he only ate ramen at Ichiraku's. Naruto was interrupted from his thoughts by the microwave finishing. He got his meal out, and started to eat. When he was finished, he washed his dishes before looking out his window. It was still early, about 5 or 6, so he decided to do some light training. He headed to his living room before using his own body flicker to head to training ground 62. Once there, he started to do hand seals before calling out his lightning release, lightning dragon jutsu. Lightning crackled around him before converging in front of him, and then taking the shape of a serpentine dragon. The dragon roared, as his red eyes gleamed in the twilight before launching at the trees opposite him. Once the dragon collided with the trees, it created a huge explosion that rocked the field slightly. When the dust cleared, Naruto saw that about 15 trees were destroyed, and a few others were burned or scorched from the lightning coming into contact with it. Damn, it still needs work, Naruto muttered, as he looked at everything with a disappointed frown on his face. Though was supposed to be able to do more damage, and at least completely scorch most of the trees surrounding the blast. Yes, it does. Don't worry though, Naruto, you will get it eventually. A familiar voice spoke from his mind. Yes, I know I will. Thank you though, Hitomi-chan. Naruto thought back to the demon inside of his body. He had met Kyuubi when he was 9. He was practicing a hard D-rank jutsu, and had fallen unconscious from chakra exhaustion. After that, he had woken up in his mind. Flashback. Okay, where am I? Naruto thought aloud, as he looked around. It looked like he was in a sewer. When he was standing, he decided to find a way out. As he walked though, he saw 2 big pipes. One had a blue glow surrounding it while the other had a red glow. After about 10 minutes, he saw a red glow coming from a hallway. His curiosity took over, and he headed towards it. As he neared it, he felt anger, sadness, and regret coming from the end of the hall. When he entered, he saw that he was in a huge room with a giant cage or gate across from him. He was too busy looking around to notice the 2 giant eyes that were watching him with amusement and sadness in them. That is until I chuckled. Naruto's head snapped to the sound, and he froze when he saw the 2 rose-colored eyes watching him. They stared at each other before the being spoke. Hello, child. I see that you have finally arrived. We are currently inside your mind. I called you here to speak with you. Naruto nodded slowly, still slightly scared. You probably would be too if you saw 2 eyes that were at least 3 times his size. He thought for a moment before finally finding his voice. Who are you? And what did you want to talk about? The being paused for a moment before finally speaking. Well, I have many names. You humans, though, call me Kyuubi or Kyuubi no Kitsune. As if that was what the room was waiting for, lights illuminated the room, and the cage. Naruto stared at the crimson-colored fox that was behind the bars. What he really looked at though was the 9 tails that swayed behind that was broken from his staring by Kyuubi's voice. Now, I have called you here to talk about your bloodline. I have improved it, you could say. How did you improve it? Naruto asked with his head tilted with curiosity in his voice. Kyuubi chuckled at this. He looked like a newborn fox kit when they were confused or curious. Well, the scroll you got from your mother said that you had to train to keep unwanted metal objects from coming to you. I got rid of that. But now you have to train harder to control your sand or other metal with your magnetic field. I have also made your bloodline into an ultimate defense, so now instead of calling it to protect you, it will now do it by itself if your instincts sense danger. The fox paused to let the boy take this in before continuing. I would also like your permission to change your body to help handle my chakra when you need it. Also, I am willing to teach you if you will change this place to something more peaceful. Looking at a sewer for 9 years gets old fast. Naruto thought over this before answering. If I do give you permission to change my body, will there be any major changes? No. You get claws on your feet, toes, silted eyes, better senses, and your body will be stronger. Naruto nodded before agreeing to Kyuubi's deal since he could not sense any intent to harm him. Kyuubi's red chakra seeped from its cage and swirled around Naruto. It stopped after 5 minutes, but Naruto looked the same. The changes should be done by morning when you wake up. Now to change your mindscape you just need to think of a place, and will change. Naruto nodded before closing his eyes and concentrating. Kyuubi saw the sewer slowly blur before it started to change. When it was finished, Kyuubi was staring in awe. The place was beautiful. It was a wide open grass field with a lake that was big enough that it would fit at least 3 Kyuubis comfortably. There were mountains in the northeast and a forest in the south. There were also different animals and birds running or flying around. The seal had changed into a dog collar. There. I hope you like it, and I give you permission to change whatever you like. The giant fox looked down at the boy as he looked at his work. The fox smiled before grinning devilishly. Naruto had to shield his eyes, as Kyuubi was covered in a bright light. Naruto saw that it was slowly shrinking and taking a humanoid shape. When the light died down, his jaw dropped at the sight in front of him. She had a heart-shaped face with crimson hair framing her face. Her body was slim, but it was muscular. She had claws on her toes and feet along with fangs that came about half an inch out of her mouth. Her skin was evenly tanned, her body and slender hips. What attracted his attention though, were her eyes. Her beautiful rose-colored eyes. There was one problem though. She was naked. Naruto flew backwards into a tree with blood exploding out of his nose. His head impacted the tree, and he was knocked unconscious with a big grin on his face. 5 minutes later, when Naruto woke up, he saw that the redhead goddess was still in front of him, but she had on a crimson kimono, which complemented her figure well, with foxes on it. Who are you? Naruto asked, as he got up with a mild blush still on his face. The goddess grinned at him before replying in a heavenly voice. I am hurt, Naruto-kun. You don't remember me? Naruto looked confused before his eyes caught movement behind her. He looked behind her to see 9 beautiful crimson tails that looked like the tip was dipped in ink swaying back and forth in what he would guess to be happiness. His eyes widened when he made the connection. He looked back to her face and was able to spot 2 crimson furred ears on her head, and also had the ink-like tip on them. Kyuubi? The now identified demon goddess grinned bigger at the boy. Actually, my real name is Hitomi Kira. You can call me Hitomi though. Naruto nodded before asking, is that all then, Hitomi-chan? Or do you need something else? The demon woman smiled at the boy, as a small, almost unnoticeable, blush appeared on her cheeks before 2 comfy red leather chairs appeared before them. She sat down, and Naruto soon joined her. Yes, actually, I am willing to give you a present when you become a real genin. I will not tell you what it is, but I will give you a hint. It will allow you to have partners. Now you can go. You will need your sleep. Naruto nodded before disappearing from his mindscape, just missing the small happy smile on the fox's face. Flashback end. Naruto smiled at the memory before he continued to practice the lightning. After a few more hours of practice, he decided that he had made a significant amount of leeway with that he decided to turn in. Once in his fox boxers and bed, he happily gave into the darkness of sleep with one last thought on his mind. I hope I will pass the real genin test to get my gift. Naruto groaned as he rolled over his bed to keep the sun out of his eyes. No matter what he did though, the sun seemed to find a way into his eyes. Naruto sighed in annoyance as he got out of bed and muttered, I hate the fucking sun. It needs to be destroyed. He stretched his body in a fox-like manner and let a satisfied smile across his lips as he heard several pops. Once done, he heads to the bathroom to take a shower, but not before making some clones to make him some breakfast. After a nice warm shower, and getting into his regular clothes, along with his headband tied to his forehead, he heads to his living room to see that his breakfast was ready, and the clones were finishing with the dishes that they used to cook. After he had devoured the eggs, bacon, cereal, and pancakes, he sighed happily before heading to the academy, and leaving the clones to clear up before they dispelled themselves. As he walked to the academy, he ignored the glares and angry looks coming from the villagers. He knew they wouldn't do anything, as the last person who did was sent to the hospital by him using his sand to slam him into the ground. He had been there for 3 months before he could be released. He once again focused on the road when he saw a dust cloud heading right for him. He paused and tried to get a good look at it. Once he did, he groaned. It was Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka, the two biggest fangirls of Sasuke Uchiha and wannabe Kunoichi. In fact, the only true Kunoichi in his class was Hinata Hyuga. He sidestepped them as they passed, and he was able to make out that they were arguing about who would sit next to Sasuke. He sighed again before pulling out a book called Rose's Love, and started to read, as he restarted his way to the academy. He arrived about 30 minutes before Iruka was to arrive, so he took his normal seat, which happened to be in the back by the window. After 20 minutes he heard shouting coming from the hall. He looked up, and to the door, along with the rest of the class, to see Ino and Sakura running in, both shouting about how they won, which started another argument. He growled in annoyance before sending his sand towards them, and before they could do anything he hauled them up by their ankles and let them hang upside down. He looked at them for a moment before turning back to his book, and spoke in a clear, lazy, and annoyed voice. Now that I have your attention, I have a question to ask you. And what is that, Naruto Baka? Said Baka. Just sighed, and said, what does a ninja have to be to succeed? Sakura, the bookworm that she is, answered. That is silence, and deception, you Baka. The blonde sand user nodded before asking, then please tell me why you two, who are now genin, were yelling loud enough for the whole village to hear, and nearly make Akamaru-san, Kiba-san, and myself deaf? Everyone looked towards the two Inuzuka to see that Naruto was right. They both had their heads down on the desk, and were holding their ears. Once they recovered, they both nodded towards Naruto, who nodded in return. He turned back to the two captured girls. Now the only reason I have not lost my hearing is because I was able to put some of my sand in my ears, and block out your screeching, though I still could hear you a little. They two girls blushed in embarrassment, though Naruto thought it was mostly from the blood rushing to their heads. He set them down, and returned his sand to his gourd before speaking in a stern voice. Now, I want you to take your seats, and be quiet until Iruka has dismissed us or our senseis get here. Then you can scream, and yell, as much as you want, so long as you do not bother me. Am I clear? They two blushing girls nodded before taking their seats. The blonde demon container nodded, satisfied with himself, before turning back to his book. Hokage Tower. The Hokage, along with several of them, were sitting around his desk with a crystal ball on the desk, watching the events in the classroom. One in what looked like a bandage-like dress named Kurenai Yuhi spoke up. Well, I think he handled that rather well. The person next to her, who wore the regular outfit along with a sash around his waist, and had a beard, and was smoking a cigarette, named Asuma Saratobi, spoke up, as well. Yes, I think he did rather well. I personally would have humiliated them to teach them a lesson, but that worked out well. Another with gravity-defying silver hair nodded his head, as he turned back to his orange book, which resulted in a glare from Kurenai. The old Hokage nodded, as well, and he took a puff of his pipe. He blew out the smoke, as he said, yes he did. Now you all know your team now, and wait for Iruka to announce the team he is just about to start. The senseis nodded to their leader before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Academy, now then, I will announce the team you will be assigned to, so be quiet. Once Iruka had silence in the classroom, he nodded before continuing. Now then, Team 1, Team 7 will be Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Team 8 will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Naruto Uzumaki. Your sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. Team 9 is still active. Team 10 will be Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akimichi. Your sensei is Asuma Saratobi. He had to pause, as that seemed to be the time when Sakura cheered while Ino groaned loudly. Everyone else seemed to like their team except for Sasuke, who thought that he didn't need one. Your teachers will be here shortly, please wait for them, and I hope you all succeed in your future. The class smiled, as Iruka felt, and they started to talk to one another. Naruto, though, chose to read his book, as he waited for his sensei. After about 30 minutes, Asuma and Kurenai came in. They both called their teams before taking them separate ways. When Kurenai stopped, they were at Training Ground 8. She turned to her team, and signaled them to sit while she sat on the flat rock that was behind her. Now then, since we are a team, we will introduce ourselves to each other. I will go first to give you guys an example. My name is Kurenai Yuhi. My hobbies are dangos, walks, and genjutsu. My dislikes are perverts, smoking, and sexiest people. My hobbies are hanging out with my friend, Anko, and finding or making new genjutsu. My goal is to see all of you become at least. My dream is to hopefully have a family. Once she finished, she pointed towards Hinata, silently telling her to go next. Hinata will be a confidant in this story, so she will not stutter. Also, she will not have a crush on Naruto. My name is Hinata Hyuga. My likes are cinnamon buns, flower pressing, and meditating. My dislikes are my clan elders, the caged bird seal, perverts, and sexiest people. My hobbies are flower pressing, and playing with my sister. My goal is to find a new seal that will replace the caged bird seal, and to have a loving family. Everyone nodded before Kurenai pointed to Shino. My name is Shino Aburame. My likes are insects of any kind, collecting insects, and spending time with my parents. My dislikes are people who hurt insects, arrogant people, and people who judge others before they get to know them. My hobbies are collecting insects for my colony, and going with my father on training trips. My goal is to make my parents happy, and proud of me, and to become clan head. Kurenai then pointed to Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are foxes, lightning, my mother, and a vixen I know. My dislikes are rapists, sexist people, arrogant people, the council, and people who insult my friends or my mother. My hobbies are reading the Roses Love series, and training. My goal is to make my mother proud of me, and to make my name known throughout the world. Kurenai nodded, though her eyes were wide at what she heard. Naruto knew about Kyuubi, and he read a romance series novel that was a huge hit for women. After she was able to shake off her shock, he addressed her team. Now that is out of the way, I want you all to meet me here tomorrow at 9 o'clock sharp. You will be taking your real genin test, since the academy is used to see who has the potential to be a ninja. She saw that Hinata did look slightly shocked, but not too shocked. Shino only raised his eyebrow, and Naruto looked bored. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at Naruto, as he looked like he already knew this, which he probably does. Now that is all, you are dismissed, except for you, Naruto. I want to talk to you. After Shino had said their goodbyes and had left, Kurenai turned to look at Naruto to see that he had made a throne-like chair that looked like Kyuubi. In front of his chair was another throne, but it looked like it was fit for a queen. After snapping out of her staring at the fine details of the throne, she sat down on the iron sand-made throne. Now then, Kurenai-sensei, I believe that you want to know how I know about the Kyuubi. Well, I met her when I was 9. She has helped greatly in my life, and we are great together. Before you ask, yes, I have told the Hokage, and he knows everything about me except for the things I have learned. He let me keep that a secret. Kurenai nodded, as she let the information sink in. After a few minutes she asked, what rank would you say that you are at? Naruto let a mischievous smile grace his lips before he answered. That, Kurenai-hime, is a secret. You will have to wait until tomorrow to find out. With that, Naruto, and his iron sand vanished, with his laughter echoing around the forest. Had he stayed longer, he would have seen Kurenai blush before she left, muttering about getting him back for calling her that. Next day at 9 o'clock, Training Ground 8. When Kurenai arrived at the training ground, she found Hinata sitting in a meditating stance. Shino was studying some bugs and insects that he found, and Naruto was sitting on a tree branch reading his Roses Love book. She cleared her throat to get their attention. Hinata opened her eyes and walked over while Shino did the same. Naruto just fell backwards and landed on his feet while still reading, before heading over to Kurenai. Once she had their complete attention, she began her explanation of the test. Okay, my test will be one that my colleague does for his future genin. I have 2 bells tied to my waist, and you are to get one. Whoever does not have one by noon fails. Now you may begin when I say go. She waited, as they got ready before saying, begin. Hinata and Shino launched into the surrounding forest, while Naruto just stared at Kurenai with his head tilted to his left. Kurenai raised one of her elegant eyebrows at him with a silent question of, aren't you going to hide too? Naruto watched her before moving his hand to his ninja pouch on his waist. Kurenai tensed, waiting for him to attack, but almost face planted when all he did was pull out his book. Kurenai's sweat dropped as she asked, what are you doing? Naruto answered without looking up from his book. I am reading. Yes, I know that, but why are you reading? To find out what happens next, of course. Kurenai had to stop herself from face-palming her forehead. He sounded like Kakashi. Kurenai looked up when she heard the sand rushing towards her, and was able to dodge Naruto's sand. Naruto continued to read, as he had his sand attack his teacher. Kurenai was finally able to get some distance between them before she started doing seals. Naruto finally put his book away, and watched, as his sensei finished her seals. He stood stock still, as he heard Kurenai call out, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Jutsu. Naruto watched, as the fireball came closer and closer. He smirked slightly when he saw his teacher's, or soon-to-be teacher's, surprised look when his sand came up, and shielded him from the flames. Did you really think Kurenai-sensei could melt my sand? You will need a much hotter flame. This is all chakra metal. All I have to do is add chakra to reinforce it. I can also stand my elemental affinity through it, as well. Naruto demonstrated this by sending his lightning chakra through the sand. Lightning crackled around the sand, as it moved around him. Hinata and Shino watched all this with surprise and awe from their hiding places. Kurenai too watched, surprised, but for a different reason. How can he know his elemental affinity? Better yet, who taught him how to wield it? Kurenai was snapped out of her thoughts by the sand rushing at her. She redoubled her efforts to dodge the metal sand. She did not want to be electrocuted. As Naruto did this, he prepared to use one of his lightning release, lightning fox pack jutsu. Lightning crackled around Naruto's body before it took shape. After a few seconds, at least a dozen foxes made of lightning stood before him. Naruto gave a mental command for them to attack. They did so, rushing at level speeds towards Kurenai, who was still dodging Naruto's metal sand. While Kurenai was busy, Naruto rushed over to Shino. He finally found him about 20 meters on a branch, watching Kurenai dodge the sand and foxes. Hey Shino, did you figure out what this test is about? Shino turned to Naruto, not even looking surprised that he was behind him. Shino nodded slowly before saying, "Yes, I knew almost from the very beginning. Hinata-san knows, as well." Naruto grinned widely at Shino before saying, "Well, let's not disappoint Kurenai then. Let's show her our teamwork. I have already sent a clone to Hinata-san." Shino nodded before Naruto told him his plan. With Kurenai, I hate these things. When I get my hands on Naruto, I am going to throw him in the women's hot spring. Kurenai grinned evilly at that thought before preparing to destroy the lightning foxes. Before she could though, they crackled before disappearing along with the black sand. The eyes Queen of Konoha tensed as she looked around. The bushes to her left moved, and Kurenai automatically threw a kunai at it. The kunai went through the bush, but Naruto appeared through the trees to her right. His hands were covered in sand up to his elbows, while his legs were covered up to his knees. They also took the shape of claws. Once he was close enough, he slashed at her stomach. She dodged, but Naruto continued to use his taijutsu to fight. He used fast strikes at his vitals or joints, and when she tried to strike back, the sand from his gourd would protect him, while he could still attack. As Kurenai continued to fight Naruto off, Shino released his destruction bugs, and ordered them to attack Kurenai from behind. The bugs did as ordered. As they crawled towards her, Kurenai was able to see them out of the corner of her eye. With a surprising burst of speed, Kurenai punched Naruto in his face, sent him flying, and allowed Kurenai time to jump away from Shino's chakra-eating bugs. As Kurenai was in the air though, Hinata saw her chance and jumped to her teacher. As Hinata grabbed the bells, Kurenai tried to stop her. Before she could though, a wall of sand separated her from Hinata. Hinata was landed by her teammates, as Kurenai landed a few yards away from them. Before she could try to get the bells back, they all heard the bell that Kurenai had sat on a log post before the test go off. She looked at them all before focusing her attention on Hinata. "Well Hinata, since you have both of the bells, who is going to pass with you?" Hinata smiled at her before throwing both the bells to her teammates, surprising Kurenai. "We all do, Kurenai-sensei." The objective of this test was to use teamwork. Kurenai studied them. She saw determination and happiness in all of them. Her stern look turned gentle and kind as she said, "Well then, you all pass. Teammate is now official." Hinata smiled as Naruto and Shino high-fived. Kurenai smiled at them all, happy that her first team passed. She cleared her throat and waited a few seconds before speaking. "Now then, meet me here at 9 a.m. sharp. You are dismissed." "Now Naruto, I have a surprise for you." Naruto turned happy before a fearful look appeared on his face at seeing the evil smile on Kurenai's face. "And what is that, Kurenai-sensei?" Kurenai's evil smile got larger as she walked towards him, causing him to back up slowly. "Those foxes of yours ruined my outfit. Now I would like you to pay for it." Naruto gulped loudly as he saw that she was right. Her outfit had 7 tears and burns from the lightning. "And how do you want me to pay for it?" "Well, I figured I could throw you in the women's side of the hot spring," she said in an innocent voice. Naruto's eyes widened and he paled rapidly. Before Kurenai could follow through with her plan, Naruto vanished in a swirl of sand. Kurenai growled as she said, "Get your ass back here, Naruto." With that, she took off after her prey. Shino and Hinata just looked at each other before saying, "We never speak of this." Then they headed home to get ready for tomorrow. For months after test, Naruto glared at the evil demon that Hinata held in her arms. They had been sent on a mission to capture the fire daimyo's wife's cat, Tora. She was a nasty beast. The cat could somehow move around his sand and attack him. Either that or his instincts didn't see the cat as a threat. After 4 hours of chasing the damn cat, he finally lost his patience and made several spears out of his sand. Before he could launch them though, Hinata was able to grab the demon cat, making it impossible to kill it. That is until it runs away again. As he thought this, he grinned. It widened further, as he watched the daimyo's wife hug, Crush, the cat. As she left, he turned to the Hokage along with his team, and Sensei. Congrats on your mission. Now your sensei has talked to me, and she believes that you are ready for a C-rank mission. You also have the required D ranks completed, so I will give you one. Teammates smiled at this, though you had to really look to see Shino's. Now then, a nearby village has requested help from some bandits. They have been taking supplies and food. You are to capture them all, and deliver them all to the village's police force. You have 2 weeks. This scroll has the mission details in it. Kurenai nodded, as she caught the scroll, and turned to her team. Alright, pack for the 2 weeks we will be gone, and then meet at the east gate in 1 hour. Her team nodded before Naruto disappeared in a swirl of sand, Hinata in a swirl of water, and finally Shino in a swirl of bugs. Kurenai nodded to the Hokage before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Eastgate 1 hour later, Naruto smiled happily to himself. He was finally going to be able to leave the village, and see the world, or any country, whichever you look at. He turned when he heard the sound of someone using the body flicker jutsu. He smiled at Shino and Hinata as they walked to him. While they had not known each other well during the academy, they had bonded with each other well these 4 months together. He had even taught them the body flicker jutsu. After that they had started getting closer. He was even starting to understand Shino better even when he didn't even talk. Hinata had also gotten to know better. They turned to their sensei when she appeared in front of them. She smiled at them before she turned serious. Alright, first I want to say that I am proud that you have all come this far. Now I want you all to be on your guard. I know that this is a C-rank mission, but I want you all to be careful. Now then, Shino, I want you to be in front. I will be behind you. Naruto, you are behind me, with Hinata bringing up the rear. They all nodded before disappearing into the forest. 2 days later, when Team 8 arrived at the town, they saw that it was in fairly good shape. There were a few houses that looked like they had been set on fire, and others that looked like they were ransacked, though it looked like it was only on the west side of the town. As they neared the town hall, they saw the mayor standing in front of the building. He smiled at them, and they saw his shoulders relax. Thank you for coming. My name is Fuyu. Please come in. We can discuss this in my office. Kurenai accepted his offer before turning to her team. Naruto-kun, Shino-kun, I want you to have some clones and bugs scout the area while we talk to the client. They nodded before doing as ordered, and then headed after their teammate and sensei. Once everyone was settled, Kurenai turned to Fuyu. Fuyu-san, my name is Kurenai Yuhi. This is my genin team, Naruto Uzumaki, Shino Aburame, and Hinata Hyuga. They each nodded at him as they were named, and he returned it. He sipped his tea that his maid had brought before speaking to Kurenai. I am sure that you know that the reason that I called you here is that bandits have started to plunder our town. They came about 2 weeks ago. They have taken supplies and food from the houses you saw when you entered from the west gate. One of the townspeople accidentally found their camp a few days ago. It is about 2 miles southeast from here. Kurenai nodded at this, as she thought about what she had been told. As she was thinking, Shino spoke up. Fuyu-san, do you know where the townspeople are? We did not see any when we came in. The mayor nodded before saying yes. They are all currently in an underground bunker that I had made in case of bandits. They agree that it was a good idea. The team nodded before the mayor left, and they started to plan their attack on the bandit camp. Kurenai, Naruto paused here before continuing. I have an idea. I am sure that you have all noticed the 8 blood storage seals. His team nodded. I have stored in these seals 8 other gourds of my iron sand. Depending on how big the camp is, I can unseal as many as I need, and encircle the camp in a wall made of my sand. While I hold that you all can go and disable the bandits. However, if the camp is fairly big, I can only hold it for so long. This is because I have to pump my chakra into the wall for it to stay standing, not to mention when the bandits start trying to destroy it. His team nodded slowly at this before Kurenai spoke up. Are you sure that you can do that, Naruto-kun? Naruto grinned before saying, Of course I can, Kurenai. Kurenai smiled slightly as she shook her head, as a slight blush crept across her unblemished cheeks. Alright team, head to bed. We will attack tomorrow when they are having lunch. They will most likely be unlikely to notice anything until it is too late. Shino and Hinata nodded, as Naruto mock salutes before heading to their assigned rooms for the duration of the mission. Kurenai looked around before heading to her room, as well to rest for the long day tomorrow. Next day, bandit camp 1 p.m. Teammates sat in a tree near the bandit. They had just gotten everyone lunch, and, as Kurenai thought, they were all distracted with their meals, and each other. Kurenai nodded at Naruto when she saw that all the bandits were eating. Naruto nodded back before biting his thumb enough to draw blood. He swiped the blood along 3 of the seals. 3 gourds made out of iron sand appeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto and 2 clones that he had made caught the 3 gourds before jumping to the ground, and gently lowering them to the ground so as to not attract the bandits. He unstrapped his own gourd before running through a series of hand signs. Iron sand release, Black Entrapment Wall Jutsu. The 4 black gourds of sand all exploded into action. All the sand launched forward, and began to silently encircle the camp. Once the camp had an equal amount of sand around it, the sand rose rapidly. The bandits saw it, but were unable to do anything, as a 15-foot wall completely encircled the camp. "Go, and be quick please," Naruto spoke, as he held the last seal of his. "I can only hold it for about 10 to 15 minutes, probably less, depending on how much they pound on it." His teammates and sensei nodded before going into action. With Shino landed on the left side of the camp, immediately drawing the attention of the bandits of his assigned section to take out. "Hey look, the town must have hired ninja," one of the bandits shouted from the group. "There is nothing to worry about. Look, he is young, it must be a genuine team. Let's just kill him, and get back to lunch," another stated, bringing confidence back to the bandits, as the first had worried them. They cheered before rushing the single genin. Shino watched this all through his sunglasses. As the bandits rushed him, he whispered, "I see that I cannot reason with you." The bandits laughed at him before the one in front punched at his face. Once the punch made contact, Shino exploded in a burst of bugs. The bandit screamed before falling unconscious from having his chakra drained. "You fell into my trap." They all turned to see Shino standing behind them with many bugs rushing out of his coat. As the destruction bugs descended upon them, Shino explained the trap he set. "I set a bug clone in to distract you, and to also draw you all to one spot. This makes it easier to defeat you, and my bugs can get to you all faster." Within a few minutes all the bandits were unconscious, having had all of their chakra drained to the bare minimum. They would recover. It would just take a few weeks, as people not trained in chakra usage do not recover it as fast as shinobi. Once all of Shino's bugs had returned, he started to tie up all the bandits and deposit them in a group. With Hinata weaved through the right side of the camp. She struck out at each bandit she came across. As she passed, she would strike at the chakra point in the back of the neck that would knock out civilians. After a few minutes, she was able to take out half of her section before the bandits started to form a circle with each other to defend against her. "So, they're not completely stupid. Well, there is what Genjutsu Kurenai sensei taught us all. Demonic illusion, sleeping feathers rain," Hinata whispered from behind one of the tents. The bandits looked around confused, as they saw multiple feathers fall from the sky. Slowly they felt drowsy. Some swayed before falling over asleep, while others tried to fight it, and some succeeded. Hinata was able to knock them out though before they could get back to their senses. Once that was finished, she pulled out some of the ninja wire that she had bought, and began to tie them up. With Kurenai, "This is too easy. Next time I am going to ask Hokage-sama for a harder mission. I still need to get my team ready for the Chunin exams, that is if I enter them. I know Naruto can pass the exam, as he has been training since he was 8, since I tested all of my students one-on-one after they passed. Naruto is low, Hinata is at least low Chunin in everything, but Genjutsu and Ninjutsu, which I should be able to fix soon. Now Shino is where I run into problems. He is also at low level, but all he can use has to be from his clan. I will have to increase their training to get Hinata and Shino to at least high before the exams. Naruto can help me out, as he said that he will only train to keep his skills sharp, as he wants his team to be on his level before continuing his own training." Kurenai thought with a proud smile, as she tied up her section of bandits. It was easy, as all she had to do was use one of her higher-ups to put them asleep. Once she was done, she headed back to Naruto's position. When she got there, she saw that her team was already present. "Alright Naruto, you can drop them, and all bandits are captured. I must say that I am proud of you all. Now Naruto, here is a food pill. I need you to carry all the bandits to the town so the police force can deal with them." Naruto nodded before taking the pill and eating it. As he stood, he spoke to his sensei. "Alright Haim, you know though that I will have to sleep for a few days to recover, as I was almost at my limit." Kurenai nodded, as a blush lit up her cheeks, and Naruto grinned as he saw it. Hinata and Shino stood back and watched this with amusement shining in their eyes. They knew that they each had something for each other, but they also knew that Naruto might have the CRA forced on him. The council might pick his wives for him. They hoped Naruto could stop that. They knew that the civilian council, along with the civilian population, hated him, but he said that he would only tell them the reason he was hated when he was ready. As Naruto remade his 4 gourds, he resealed 3 of them before tying his 4th one back on his back. Once it was, he sent the sand inside it back out, and grabbed the tied-up bandits. Once he had gathered them all, he set them all on a flat cloud he made. He turned to Kurenai before nodding. They all turned back to the town's direction before walking. Time skip. Once they entered the town, they headed right for the town hall. When they got to the door, Kurenai knocked. Fuyu answered a few minutes later. When he opened the door and saw them with the tied-up bandits, a big grin lit up his face. He waved them in before calling for the police. They arrived a few minutes later and took the bandits away to their town cells. "I want to thank you all on behalf of my town. You are free to stay here and rest before leaving." Kurenai nodded before accepting his offer. Before they could continue, they all heard a thump. They turned to see Naruto on the floor fast asleep. Fuyu asked, concern clearly in his voice. Is he okay? Yes, he is fine, just tired from all the chakra he used. We would have had more trouble without him to help us, Kurenai said, as she went over and picked him up. She took off his gourd and tied it on her back before taking him to his room. Shino-kun, Hinata-chan, please rest. We will be leaving in 2 days. The two genin nodded before they too headed to their rooms, but not before thanking Fuyu for his help. Konoha, so I guess congratulations are in order. Well done on your mission. Your pay will be delivered to you soon. You have 3 days off to rest and relax, Sandaime Hokage said, as he read teammates' mission report. The 3 genin had smiles on their faces as they left. Kurenai had a proud smile as she too left. Sarutobi smiled too, as he thought of his adopted grandson. He had come a long way, and he will only continue to get stronger. I just hope I will be alive to see him take this hat. I have a bad feeling about these upcoming Chunin exams. He shook his head to push them thoughts away before returning to the thing he hated the most, paperwork. Naruto's apartment. After Naruto appeared in his apartment a few hours later, as his team had decided to celebrate their success by eating out, he heard a familiar voice in his mind. Ah, Naruto-kun, I have decided to give you your gift now. You must, however, train for these 3 days in what I give you. You have to continue until I see that you have a good grasp on it. Am I clear? Naruto grinned before thinking, of course. You know that I always train in a weapon until I meet your requirements, and then I will still continue until it is mastered. Speaking of mastered, I still cannot do that stupid lightning dragon right. Kyuubi nodded her head before sitting in the grass field. Once she was comfortable, she spoke to Naruto. Good. Now I want you to go to the Forest of Death, and then I will give my gift to you. You might get in trouble if you use it in a training ground where people will see you. Naruto nodded before putting some full water bottles in his pouch before heading to his favorite training ground. Once he arrived, he jumped over the fence before rushing into the forest. When he had arrived in one of the biggest clearings in the forest, he stopped and waited for Kyuubi's instructions. Yes, this place will do. Now I want you to run through these hand signs before slamming your right hand on the ground. As she spoke, Naruto saw a hand sign sequence. He memorized the seals before practicing them. After he was fairly fast at them, he ran through them before slamming his hand on the ground. A puff of smoke appeared in front of him. Once it was clear, he saw a medium-sized scroll. It's as big as Jiraiya's. The scroll was blood red with black flames running around the edges. A large snarling fox was on the front. This Naruto-kun, as I am sure you already guessed, is the fox summoning contract. Then you summoned it from a cave that I had hidden it in. I would be very happy if you would expect to be my clan's first summoner. I have not been able to find someone to sign it, that is, until you came along. Naruto smiled happily, as a tear slid down his cheek. Thank you, Q-chan. I will make you and your clan proud. Could you explain what your clan does while I sign it? The fox goddess nodded, as she smiled at her friend. Hopefully I will be able to get a deeper relationship with him when I am free, when the seal has done its job, which to my calculations should be when he is around 15 or 16. I can wait though. Besides, Tenchan won't mind, as she knows that she will not be able to keep him for herself. She snapped out of her thoughts and began to explain her contract. The Fox clan is really one of the few that are all well-rounded. You know that the Toad clan is mostly offensive and defensive, while the Snake clan is fast and offensive. My clan can scout, battle, defend, or hunt. There are even some that even fight along with you, like the Inuzukas. They are all ranked from 1 tail to 9 tails. I am the only 9 tails to live. Also, since I have given you the contract, the clan will automatically accept you. You will still have to gain their respect though, as they respect strength. Naruto sighed at that. Nothing had to be easy when it came to his life. He shrugged. Oh well, more fun for him. He flashed through the hand seals for the summoning jutsu. He forced a small amount of chakra through, as he slammed his hand down. When the small cloud had disappeared, he saw the cutest thing he had seen in his life. The fox kit was the same red as Kyuubi, but also had a few stripes of lighter red. Its eyes were a beautiful shade of purple. Its ears and tail were tipped with the same shade of purple. The fox kit yawned cutely, as if it had just awoken from a nap, and Naruto had to resist the urge to pick it up and cuddle it. He heard Kyuubi giggle at his plight. The kit looked around before looking at him, and blinking. Did you summon me? It asked in surprise. Naruto nodded before pointing to the fox contract that he had tied to his back. The kit looked at it before asking, and where did you get that? Kyuubi-sama had hidden it, and only she can give it to someone. Naruto nodded before asking, have you by chance heard of the word Jinchuriki? Naruto saw the fox's eyes widen in surprise before returning to its cute and lazy stance. I see that you have. I have the Kyuubi no Kitsune sealed inside of me. She has given me the contract, as a gift for attaining Genin rank. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I will do my best to make your clan, and Kyuubi proud to have me as your summoner. The kid nodded slowly before saying, "My name is Nana. I congratulate you. Very few are interested in Kyuubi-sama. Since Kyuubi-sama has given you the contract, I am sure that you will be able to make my clan proud. Now I think I will stay with you for a while. It is very rare that we enter the world." Naruto nodded at that before the kid jumped up on his head. She moved around a bit before laying down to rest. Naruto smiled slightly before scratching her behind her ear, resulting in a purr coming from the baby fox. After he was done, he began to practice his new and now favorite for the next 3 days. After the 3-day break that Team 8 was given, they headed towards their training ground. When they arrived, they saw that Kurenai was not present, so they decided to rest in the shade of a tree until she arrived. After a few minutes, they heard the sound of someone using the body flicker jutsu. They looked up and saw Kurenai standing in front of them with a black bag in hand. "Alright everyone, I have 3 weeks to get you all ready for the Chunin exams, so I will be increasing your training regimen. In this bag I have chakra weights for Hinata-chan and Shino-kun. Now, while you two are getting used to your weights, I will be training Naruto-kun in Genjutsu." The three nodded, but Naruto groaned, as well. He hated Genjutsu. At the end of the day, Shino and Hinata were able to stand with their weights, which were 50 pounds each, on their ankles and wrists, and were able to walk, albeit slowly. When Naruto arrived the next day, he saw that his teammates were almost adjusted to their weights, though he could see that they were still slower than they normally were. Once Kurenai arrived, she handed them 3 pieces of paper. They took the papers before looking at Kurenai for an explanation, with the exception of Naruto, who already knew what it was. "These are paper made from a special tree. We call it chakra paper. It is used to find one's elemental affinity. It burns, fires, cuts in half, wind, crumples, lightning, gets damp, water, and if it turns to dust, earth." The 3 genin looked at each other before nodding, and then sending a small amount of chakra to the paper. Hinata's became damp, while Shino's turned to dust, and Naruto's crumpled up completely, and small lightning sparks jumped on it. Kurenai blinked at Naruto's paper before snapping out of it, and speaking to her team. "Well, it looks like Hinata has a water affinity, Shino has an earth affinity, and Naruto has a strong lightning affinity. Hinata and Shino, I can easily find jutsu for those. Shino probably won't be able to use anything above C rank. Naruto, though, I only know one person who knows lightning." Naruto nodded before saying, "That is alright, Kurenai. My mother left me some lightning jutsu that I can work on, and I also have to work more on my iron sand. I don't have the control over it that I want." Kurenai nodded before asking him a question. "What do you mean you don't have the control you want with your sand?" "Well, my mom said that some in my clan trained it so well that they only had to move their fingers or just think about it, and it would do it. I still have to gesture with my hand to use my bigger or the more complicated ones." Kurenai nodded at that before saying, "Alright, you can work on your own for now while I work with Hinata and Shino. I will bring you what I want you to learn tomorrow." Hinata and Shino nodded at that before following Kurenai to begin their training, while Naruto stood in the middle of the clearing and began his as well. 2 weeks later, Naruto was walking down one of the streets of Konoha. Kurenai had given the team the day off to rest before starting their train back up. Naruto was happy with his work, and he knew that his teammates were, as well. Shino had increased his weights to 100 per limb. He had also learned a few earth, mostly D rank, to help with survival, as his bloodline made it impossible to use high level. As his insects fed off his chakra, he was able to do 2 C rank jutsus before he had to stop. His chakra reserves, though, had increased to a high level Chunin. Shino had told them that his bugs had really liked that his chakra pool had increased. His taijutsu training with Kurenai had also increased his taijutsu to about a mid-chunin, at least that is what Kurenai guessed. Hinata had increased her weights to 120 per limb. Kurenai had helped her, and Shino, on her water. She now knew 5 C rank water, and a few D ranks, as well. Hinata's chakra pool had also increased. She now had the chakra of a high. Hinata had also increased her taijutsu to a midichlorian. She had told them, though, that her cousin, Niji Hyuga, could still beat her in a taijutsu match. Naruto himself had also had weights on. He had changed his gravity seals to chakra seals. These seals would drain chakra on his command, and increase the weight on his body. As of right now, he had 250 on each weight, which he had placed on his ankles and wrists. The cool part of this, at least Naruto thought it was that when he released the chakra from the seals, it would go back to his chakra pool, giving him more energy. While his teammates had been drilled into the ground by Kurenai, he had been practicing control of his sand, and some of the harder his mother left him. Naruto stopped when he heard a familiar voice cry out. He walked over to the ally that he heard the call come from, and saw a cat boy, or at least that is what it looked like. The boy was wearing a black suit that had cat-like ears on the top. The girl next to him had her hair done up into 4 ponytails, and carried a big fan on her back. When he stopped looking at them, he saw that the cat boy had Konohamaru Sarutobi, Sandame's grandson, in his hand. He also saw Sakura Haruno, and Konohamaru's friends, Udan, and Moegi. That hurt you, brat. You will pay for that, Naruto heard the cat boy say, as he raised his fist. Oh, put him down, Kankuro. We did not come here to get into fights with kids, the girl next to the now named Kankuro said. Shut up, Temari. This kid is going to pay for running into me, Kankuro said to Temari. He pulled his fist back and launched it forwards. Before it made contact with Konohamaru, though, he saw black sand wrap around his hand. I suggest you let go of the kid, Sunanin. Kankuro, after recovering from his shock, turned to Naruto and said, oh yeah, and what are you going to do about it? Naruto stared at him before uncrossing his arms and moving his right hand so that it was above the sand he had next to him that was connected to Kankuro's hand. Lightning appeared and crackled around his hand. If you don't, I will send this lightning through my iron sand and electrify you. It is your choice though. Kankuro looked from Naruto's hand to his face before letting the kid in his hand go. Once Konohamaru was behind him, Naruto stopped the lightning on his hand and returned the sand to his gourd. Before he could return it, though, his black sand shot in front of him and connected to the light brown sand that was headed towards him. As his sand battled with the foreign sand, he turned towards the source. He saw a red-headed boy with the kanji for love on his forehead. He also had a brown gourd on his back. As the red-headed kid used the Suna body flicker jutsu to get in front of Temari and Kankuro, Naruto stepped in front of the scared academy students and Sakura. Naruto stared at the new sand-wielding boy who was leaking a small amount of Ki. The boy's chakra felt like his, but was also different at the same time. That is because he is also a demon container. He holds that crazy, bloodthirsty, raccoon dog, Ichibi no Shikaku. Naruto's eyes widened at that information before calling back his sand. He saw the redhead do the same. You are interesting. What is your name? Naruto heard the redhead say. It is common courtesy. Spelling? To give your own name before asking someone else's. Gaara no Sabaku. Naruto Uzumaki. Gaara nodded before turning and walking away. Before he was shot, though, Naruto heard him say, I look forward to meeting you in the exam. Naruto Uzumaki. How did he know that I am in the exams? Naruto watched them go before turning to Sakura and the academy students. Are you guys alright? They nodded, and Naruto smiled at them before turning to the tree that Gaara was in. I suggest to Sasuke-san that if Kakashi-san enters you in the exam that you train hard. Gaara will not go down easily, and neither will the other participants. With that said, Naruto left to enjoy the rest of his day off, leaving one fuming Uchiha and a confused pink-haired girl. 1 week later, Naruto stood outside the academy entrance waiting for his team to arrive. He wasn't really worried. He could sense that only 4 or 5 ninja would cause him problems. One was Gaara, and he also sensed another Jinchuriki, but he would have to wait and get closer so that Kyuubi could tell him which one it was. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when he felt a soft, gentle, but firm hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Hinata and Shino behind him with Hinata's hand on his shoulder. He smiled at them, and Hinata returned it, and he saw that Shino nodded at him before heading towards the door. Naruto and Hinata followed him. When they arrived on the second floor, they saw 2 genin guarding the door to the examination room. Naruto looked at Hinata and said genjutsu in her mouth. He nodded and saw that Shino had noticed as well. As they moved towards the stairs to the 3rd floor, he saw a fist headed towards a familiar bun-headed girl. Tenten-chan, Naruto thought, as he saw her with Tenten. Tenten watched as the fist the genin threw at her came closer after she backed up her friend/teammate, Rock Lee. She closed her eyes and waited for the blow to land so that she and her team could keep up with the impression that they were weak. After 10 seconds of not feeling any pain, she cracked her eyes open a little to see what happened. Her eyes snapped open when she saw the familiar black sand holding the genin's fist an inch from her face. Before the genin could do anything, the sand threw him into the wall. Everyone's attention returned to the black sand that was floating in midair. They followed it with their eyes, and saw it return to a blonde-haired kid with a gourd on his back, which the sand returned into. Naruto smiled at them before winking at Tenten, who grinned back at him, before walking off with his team. When they entered a big room, they heard a girl's voice call out to them. They turned, and saw a brown blur headed right for Naruto. The missile smashed into Naruto, and they both ended up on the floor. When the dust settled, they saw Tenten hugging Naruto, and saying stuff about not meeting up with her or not coming back to meet her dad at the store. After Naruto was able to get Tenten off of him, he turned to his team and began to explain. Hinata-san, Shino-san, this is Tenten-nichan. She is not my real sister, but she might as well be. I have known her for about 4 years. I met her when I went to her father's store to get some chakra metal for my sand. Flashback 4 years. 9-year-old Naruto walked down the market district's main street, as he searched for the store that the old man told him had chakra metal that they would sell him. As he walked, he ignored the glares and muttering that went on around him. As he let his mind wander, he felt his sand black a bottle from his right. As he stopped and turned, everyone stopped as well, and watched with fear and hatred shining in their eyes. Once Naruto came to a stop, he saw an old man somewhere in his mid-40s glaring at him, but Naruto saw the slight fear in his eyes. Naruto could not blame him. It was after all the first time that he had paid attention to the persons/people who threw things at him on the street. Usually he would ignore them and continue on his way. That stops now. Naruto though just continued to stare at the old man. As he continued his staring contest, he sensed the people's fear rise. Oh, he would not hurt them. He had promised the Hokage after all, but that did not mean that he could not scare them. He willed his sand and formed it into the nine-tailed fox before launching it at the old man. Said person closed his eyes and awaited his death at the hand of the demon. After a few minutes though, he opened his eyes and saw that the demon was walking away, and his sand swirling around him at a lazy pace. As the civilians got out of his way, Naruto saw the store he was looking for down the street. So this is the Dragon Claw ninja shop that the old man was talking about, Naruto thought to himself. When Naruto entered the shop, he saw that it was lined wall to wall with weapons. He also saw some ninja clothes and regular weapons. He turned towards the counter and saw a girl with brown hair. He saw that she had it done up into 2 buns. He walked forwards and stopped in front of the counter. He cleared his throat and chuckled when the girl jumped slightly and dropped her magazine, which he saw was about weapons. Welcome to the Dragon Claw. How may I help you? The girl asked once he recovered from her small scare. Naruto grinned at her as he answered, Yes, I would like to order some chakra metal. One of the girl's eyebrows rose before she turned around and called out, Hey Dad, you have a customer that wants to order some chakra metal. They heard a crash in the back of the store before an old man in his early to mid-40 came out with half of his face covered in soot. He walked up to the counter before pulling out a rag and wiping the soot off his face. Now young man, you want to order some chakra metal. Can I ask why? Naruto raised his eyebrow before ordering his sand to move behind him and form a small chair for him to sit in. Naruto had a grin on his face as he saw that the old storekeeper had his mouth opening and closing, trying to form words. Once he got over his shock, he turned to Naruto and asked, Are you related to Kushina-chan? You knew my mother? Naruto asked with hope in his voice. The old man nodded before saying, Yes, I knew Kushina Uzumaki. Tamba, that woman, she came to my shop and ordered enough chakra metal to make a gourd. Said she was going to use it for her bloodline. Naruto nodded at that. Yes, me and my mother can use the iron sand bloodline. We can make a magnetic field that can control metal in our vicinity. The man nodded before asking, Okay, and how many gourds will you want? I asked this because your mother ordered 3. Naruto thought for a moment before he heard a small feminine voice call out in his head. 9, Naruto said, as he decided to listen to the voice. The man's eyes widened before he nodded. He headed into the back room, but not before saying over his shoulder, Your order will be ready in 2 days. Naruto nodded before turning to the girl who had been watching with interest, but had remained silent. I am sorry for ignoring you. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. May I ask yours? My name is Tenten Higurashi. That was my father, Rei. The now named Tenten said, pointing in the back of the store, as she finished. With that said, Naruto told her bye. He returned 2 times every week after that to train and hang out with Tenten and her father as well. Flashback end. Tenten's teammates nodded, and Lee Niji grunted, as did his own team. That is most interesting, Naruto-san, but we need to get moving. At this rate we will all be late. The 2 teams nodded before walking to room 301. When they arrived, they saw Kurenai and a weird guy in green spandex. After Kurenai introduced the other as guys, she explained to them that if one of them had not come with their team, she would have to send them back. She also told them to do their best and to be careful before body flickering away, with Guy leaving right after he gave his team his own speech. The 2 teams nodded at each other before entering. They were met with over 200 genin glaring at them. They shrugged it off, as it was not much. Tenten hugged her brother before she and her team left to wait in the crowd. Team 8 was about to move when they heard the door open again with greater force. They turned, along with the entire room, to see Team 7 enter with Sasuke leading them. Sasuke smirked at Naruto, who just ignored him, and turned to talk to Kiba, leaving an angry Uchiha glaring holes in his head. Naruto was interrupted when he heard a familiar and annoying voice yell out, Sasuke-kun. He turned to see that Ino had attached herself to Sasuke's back and was rubbing her cheek against his own. Ino pig, get off my Sasuke-kun. Ino just stuck her tongue out before Sasuke pushed her off his back. Ma is so troublesome. Naruto turned to see Shikamaru and Choji walking up to them. Naruto smiled at them, and Choji returned it, as Shikamaru nodded. Well, it looks like all the rookies are all back together. Kiba spoke up after seeing they were all present. Yeah, think you will be a Kiba-san? Naruto asked the canine boy. Kiba nodded excitedly before his mood dropped by a certain Uchiha's next words. Like you could ever be on your first try. Kiba turned his angry-filled eyes to him, and opened his mouth to say something when he was interrupted by a new voice. You guys are rookies, right? First time here. You should be more quiet. There is a lot of competition here that rookies don't like. The group turned to see a boy with glasses, and who looked about 19 or 20 approached them. He had silver hair, and wore a purple shirt with a white undershirt along with a white sash around his waist at an angle. He wore purple pants, and a shuriken holster on his right leg. He immediately put Naruto on edge, as he smelled a snake coming off him with his enhanced senses. Hinata and Shino were the only ones to see him tense a little, as they had been with him longer, and knew him. They too put their guard up around the older genin. Oh, and why is that? Kiba asked, as his companion, Akamaru, popped out of his jacket. The silver-haired genin fixed his glasses, as he spoke. Well, if you look behind you, you will know. They did so, and saw that everyone, save a few, were glaring at them with ki mixed in. They turned back to the genin when he started talking again. Tension is high in the exams. Most are also not very happy about rookies taking the exam. I have to say though, this is the toughest bunch that I have seen in the exams. And you have taken this exam how many times, mister? Naruto asked with his guard still present. The older genin fixed his glasses again before speaking. Forgive me. Where are my manners? My name is Kabuto Yakushi. You must suck, Kiba said after Kabuto had told them that this was the 7th time that he had entered the exam. He had also told them that he had cards with information on them. Some were on individuals, and others were on the countries themselves. You said you had information on individuals? Sasuke asked Kabuto after thinking for a moment. Kabuto nodded and said yes. Just tell me their name or describe them. I might have information on them. Gaara no Sabaku, Rock Lee, and Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke said after Kabuto explained. Kabuto nodded before swiping 3 cards from his deck. He picked one, and channeled chakra into it. A picture of Rock Lee appeared on the picture along with a diagram. First is Rock Lee. He is a member of Team 9, also called Team Guy. His teammates are Niji Hyuga and Tenten Higurashi. Sensei is Guy Meito. His taijutsu is off the charts, but is unable to use jiu-jitsu and ninjutsu. He has done 50 D-rank missions and 10 C-rank missions. He put Rock Lee's cards back and pulled out the next one. Next is Gaara no Sabaku. His teammates are his siblings, Kankuro and Temari no Sabaku. Sensei is Baki. He has done 15 C-rank missions and 2 B-rank missions. Other than that I don't have much, although it says here that he has come back from every mission without a single scratch. As he pulled out the next cards, the rookie 9 looked over at the redhead, and most shivered at the glare he shot them. Naruto, though, never took his attention off Kabuto. Next is Naruto Uzumaki. He is a member of Team 8. His teammates are Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame. Sensei is Kurenai Yuhi. He has done 35 D-rank missions and 1 C-rank. His ninjutsu and taijutsu are very good, better than most. His genjutsu is slightly below average. Says here that he uses his bloodline to control iron sand. He is also very good at lightning jutsu. Ash put that away. Everyone stared at Naruto, as most of this was news to them. Kabuto-san, do you have information on that girl over there? Naruto said, as he pointed to his left and towards the back. Kabuto looked at her before flipping through his deck. He finally found the one he needed, and channeled chakra into it. The picture showed a blonde-haired girl that had slitted green eyes. She wore a black bodysuit with ANBU-like armor on her forearms and legs. She also wore a metal chest plate, but it still showed off her firm C-cups. She had her hair done up into a ponytail that reached her back. Name is Yujito and he is 16, and is the niece of the current Yandame Reikage. She is nicknamed the Lightning Cat for her knowledge of lightning jutsu and her cat-like appearance. That is all I have on her. Naruto nodded, as he looked at the girl. She felt like him, and Gaara, so he believed she was a Jinchuriki, as well. It shouldn't be that hard for you to figure out Naruto. She is the of the Nibi no Bakaniko, or the two-tailed monster cat. Naruto nodded, as he thought about this new information. There were 3 demon containers in the same place. At least he hoped there were only 3. I have a bad feeling about these exams. So do I, Naruto, and so do I. With Sand siblings. I told you, Kankuro, that boy does have the Iron Sand bloodline. He has to send a message to father, Temari said, as she watched the rookie 9. I know, Temari, but we will have to wait until later when we have time, Kankuro replied, as he looked at the blonde-haired boy that had stopped him from hitting the kid that ran into him. Gaara ignored his siblings, as he listened to his mother. Be careful if you fight that blonde-haired boy. I can smell that slutty fox all over him. Gaara looked at Naruto, as his mother told him this. Ever since he had met him, mother had said to stay away from him. You interest me, Naruto Uzumaki. I will enjoy killing you. Back with the rookies. This exam will most likely be the hardest. I have never seen such a good group of candidates then. Though you shouldn't need to worry about sound, as they are a new village, and are weak. Kabuto spoke up after putting his cards away. Said Ninja Team did not take too kindly to that, but Before they could charge, a poof of smoke appeared in the front of the room. When the smoke cleared, everyone saw many behind him. "Alright, you maggots, calm down, and take your seat. The first part of the exam has begun," they stated. Everyone moved to follow the orders of the intimidating black-clad. Once the proctor saw that everyone was seated before began to explain the test. "Now then, my name is Ibiki Marino, and I am your test proctor," the now named Ibiki stated before continuing. "Now that that's out of the way, listen very closely, as I will not repeat myself, and I will not be allowing questions." He took a brief glance around the room to make sure he had everyone's attention and started talking. "There are several rules for this test. The first is that each of you will have 10 points, 1 for each question of the test. If you miss a question, you lose 1 point. Next rule, this is a team test. Your scores will be totaled out of a possible 30. Third rule, if you are caught cheating, you will lose 2 points for each offense. And the final rule, this is a team test, so all of the pathetic ones that lose all of your points. You will not only fail yourself, you will take your teammates with you. The exam will last 1 hour. I will give the 10th question at the 45-minute mark," he said before barking, "Begin." And Ibiki watched, as everyone in the room flipped over their test, and began writing furiously, with one exception. "Very clever, Ibiki. He wants us to cheat, but wants to get rid of all those who can't cheat well. The intimidation works well, and I can tell he gets a kick out of scaring the more shaky ones," Naruto thought, as he looked over his test. Most of them he could not answer, though these were on elemental manipulation that he could answer. He got to work on those before leaning back and looking around, as he only needed at least one answer to pass his team. He saw several had already started cheating, and some were doing it very well. Some, though, could use some pointers. Naruto looked up when he heard Ibiki clear his throat. He looked around to see that a few teams had been kicked out. He turned his attention back to Ibiki. "For the 10th question there are going to be some extra rules," he explained. "The first is that you must choose whether or not to take the question. And if we choose not to take it," Gaara asked, his voice calm, and his eyes fixed on Ibiki. "If you choose not to take it, you fail." "What?" screamed a grass ninja. "If that's the case, then there's no way I'm not taking it." "Ah, but there's a catch," Ibiki said, his lips twisting into a cruel smile, making the examinees uneasy. "Should you attempt the 10th question, and answer incorrectly, you and your teammates forfeit the right to take part in the Chunin exam ever again." "What kind of stupid rule is that?" screamed Kiba. "There are guys here who've taken this thing loads of times." Ibiki just laughed at him. "Well, I wasn't proctoring those exams now, was I?" he said, his voice carrying a clear note of sadistic mirth. "It's just your rotten luck that you got me this time. So those of you confident in your ability to answer correctly, stay put. The rest of you, get out." Slowly and hesitantly several people raised their hand, and were called out with their teammates to leave. Naruto looked around before looking at Shino and Hinata, and nodded to each of them when they returned. They turned their heads to Ibiki, waiting for the 10th question. 80 teams left, Ibiki thought, as he saw that no one else was backing out. Might as well get this over with. "Alright," Ibiki began, "for those who have stage pass." Ibiki waited for 3 seconds before everyone, well, almost everyone, yelled "What?" Ibiki smirked before explaining, "There never was a 10th question. This test was to see if you could gather information without being caught. Those who were kicked out. The 10 questions were to see if you had the guts and determination to continue on with the mission." Everyone let the information sink in, but before they could do anything, a black ball smashed through the window, shattering it. 2 kunai pinned a banner behind her that read, "The single and sexy Anko Midarashi." The proctor of the second exam, Naruto, along with everyone else, stared at the crazy women. She wore a fishnet shirt and a black skirt. Leg guards and black sandals completed her outfit. 80 teams? Anko asked in disbelief. She turned to Ibiki before speaking. "You let 80 teams pass, Ibiki. You must be going soft." "Or maybe," Ibiki replied, "there is some real talent here." Anko snorted before saying, "Whatever. I will cut them down by at least half." Everyone gulped at what she had said, and started to doubt themselves about doing the next test. "Alright, you maggots, follow me to the next test." With that said, she jumped out the window, and headed towards her favorite place in Konoha. Everyone looked at each other before running after her. Once they had caught up to her, they saw that she was standing in front of a giant forest that had a heavy smell of death and blood around it. A grin spread across Anko's face when she saw that everyone made it. "Alright, this is Training Ground 44, or, as we call it, the Forest of Death." Her grin seemed to get bigger as she said this. Some of the more easily scared genin looked cautiously into the forest, as if expecting something to jump out and attack them. Anko brought the attention back to her when she pulled out some papers from out of nowhere. "To continue on with this part of the exam, you must sign this waiver. It states that Konoha is not responsible for the deaths that occur in these exams. If you refuse to sign it, then you are out of the exam," Anko said in a sickeningly sweet and innocent voice. Some of the more confident genin, Team 8 included, and arrogant, Team 7, signed immediately, while the rest hesitantly signed them. Once Anko had them all gathered back to her, she pointed to a small stand with a curtain drawn. One team at a time will go over there and get your scrolls. Once you have them, come back here, and I will explain what they are for. It took a while, but everyone had gotten their scroll, and were now standing in front of Anko. The scroll that your team has comes in 2 sets, a heaven scroll and an earth scroll. You each have one of these. Your objective is to get both scrolls and report to the tower. There is only one rule while you are there. She paused, as she looked around before a sadistic grin appeared on her face, as she finished. There are no rules. Several genin froze, as the implications of what she said registered with their minds. Others, like Gaara, had a massive, bloodthirsty grin on their face. Alright, stand in front of your gate, and wait for my signal to enter, Anko said, as she jumped on top of the small stand. The genin moved quickly and quietly. Once everyone was in front of the assigned gate, they all heard Anko over a loudspeaker. The second part of the Chunin exam has begun. The gate swung open, and all genin rushed into the forest. Team 8 tree-hopped towards the middle of the forest. They were going to the building in the center to set up traps to ambush other teams so they could get the heaven scroll they needed. Naruto stopped suddenly, and his team followed suit. Is something wrong, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, as she looked towards Naruto, who was sniffing around with his enhanced nose. We are being followed, he spoke up after a minute, as sand poured out of his gourd. They turned around, and waited for their followers. They did not have to wait long, as a few seconds later a rock team appeared in front of them. Leaf team. Let's kill them, boys, the girl said, seeing who they had come across. The 2 boys grinned at each other before rushing towards Hinata and Shino. As they took their battle deeper into the woods, Naruto kept his attention on the girl. She had blonde hair that reached her shoulders, and brown eyes. Ready to die, little leaf nin? She asked with arrogance, and smugness oozing from her voice. Naruto said nothing, as his sand slowly spun around him. The girl looked at it with interest in her eyes before dismissing it, and starting hand seals. Naruto just crossed his arms, and waited. I probably won't even have to use taijutsu to beat her, as she is most likely not fast enough to get by my sand. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts when his opponent called out to her. Earth release. Stone spear barrage. Many spears made of stone appeared from the earth beneath them. The girl grinned, as the spears levitated around her before they shot towards Naruto. Naruto only watched them, as his sand rose to protect him. He added lightning chakra to be safe. The girl's grin fell from his face when she saw the spears do nothing to the shield, as the lightning destroyed the spears before they could do any real damage. Please surrender your scroll, and I will let you leave unharmed. The girl snorted before beginning a string of hand seals. Naruto signed before he too began his own. Earth release. Earth dragon projectile jutsu. The girl called out, thinking that this would give her the win. She was wrong. Lightning release. Lightning dragon projectile jutsu. Naruto called out calmly. The 2 dragons let out a huge roar behind their respected masters before they shot towards each other. The girl grinned, thinking she won, as she put almost all her chakra into it. What this girl did not know was that Naruto easily matched her chakra output into his own dragon. The girl's grinning face turned to horror when she saw the lightning dragon throw her own dragon, and head towards her. On instinct she jumped up, and was able to dodge most of it, as it was too fast, and was able to clip her leg, sending electricity through her body. Before she could recover, she felt something hit her neck before consciousness left her mind. Naruto looked down at her before picking her up, and then leaning her against a nearby tree. You really need to learn that lightning is naturally stronger than earth, Naruto stated to the unconscious girl, as he looked through her pouch. A grin appeared on his face when he saw the heaven scroll in her pouch. His ear twitched before he turned around to see his teammates enter the clearing with their own teammates on their shoulders. They nodded at Naruto, as they laid their cargo next to the girl. So what do we do now, Naruto-kun? Set up camp or head to the tower? Hinata asked after seeing the heaven scroll in his hand before he put it in his pouch. I would like to set up camp, and be fully rested before heading towards the tower. I am almost fully rested, but you two look like you could use some rest. My opponent was not that good. She mostly used earth jutsu. His teammates nodded, knowing that earth was weak against Naruto's lightning. After a moment Shino nodded before saying, I agree with you, Naruto-san. I agree to make camp. Naruto nodded before looking at Hinata. I would like to continue on to the tower, but I do need some rest. So I agree to make camp, as well. Naruto smiled before leading them to a clearing that was a few feet away from them that was bigger than they were in now, but not before making 3 clones to carry the 3 stone ninja away from their camp. Once their camp was finished, Naruto told Shino and Hinata to sleep, as it was now turning dark, and that he would wake one of them up to continue watching later. They nodded, and once they were both asleep under the big tree that they had found connected to the clearing, Naruto created a few shadow clones to watch the area. Once that was done, he heard Kyuubi speak up. You know, Naruto-kun, that you need to tell them about me. Naruto sighed before speaking. I know, Q-chan. I am going to tell them once we get to the tower. After that they can decide whether they hate me or not. Kyuubi sighed. Naruto still thought that his teammates would hate him even after all the things that they went through. It was why he did not tell them even when Kurenai tried to convince him that they would not. Alright Naruto-kun, but please be careful. I have a bad feeling about tomorrow. Naruto suppressed a shiver. Every time Kyuubi said she had a bad feeling about something, it usually meant that something bad was going to happen, and usually it happened to him. He snapped out of it, and returned to watching the forest. He would worry about her warning tomorrow. Once Naruto and his team were awake, they destroyed all signs that they were there before heading towards the tower. Once they were halfway into the forest though, they felt a spike in a chakra that in no way belonged to a genin. Naruto turned to his teammates with a silent question in his eyes. They nodded before they headed towards the chakra spike. When they arrived they found Sasuke fighting a grass ninja with Kiba, and his partner, Akamaru, knocked out on a tree branch a few feet away with Sakura looking over them. You two helped Sakura and Kiba while I helped Sasuke. They nodded before they headed towards Sakura. Naruto bit his finger and unsealed 2 other of his guards. Once he sat them on the branch, he began flashing through hand seals. Iron Sand Release. Iron Sand Dragon Jutsu. Sand exploded out of his 3 guards before taking the form of a large dragon with menacing red eyes. The dragon let out a loud and terrifying roar before speeding towards the grass ninja. Sasuke and the grass ninja turned to the roar, and their eyes widened at seeing the giant sand dragon heading towards them. Before the grass ninja could do anything else than raise his hands, the dragon slammed into him full force, smashing him through several trees before stopping. Naruto quickly recalled his sand as he turned to Sasuke. Sasuke-san, who is this guy? I don't know. He just attacked us out of nowhere after eating his own scroll. Naruto nodded before turning to the last place the grass ninja was. After a few seconds he saw the ninja return with what looked like half of his face peeling off. The ninja chuckled before he grabbed the peeling skin and pulled it off. Once it was, Naruto froze at seeing who was standing in front of them. Orochimaru, the snake Sennin. Kukuku. Very good Naruto-kun. That actually hurt me. Naruto's eyes narrowed before asking, what are you doing here? Orochimaru of the legendary Sannin, and traitor to the Hidden Leaf Village. Kukuku, you even know who I am. Very good Naruto-kun. I see that you have also gained your mother's bloodline limit. Naruto's eyes narrowed to look like slits. He turned his head to look at Sasuke, who looked back before nodding at the unspoken question. They had to work together for now. The 2 genin and Sannin watched each other before exploding into action. Naruto's sand rocketed towards Orochimaru, while also forming Naruto claws and armor for his taijutsu. Sasuke flashed through hand seals as Orochimaru continued to dodge the metal sand. Fire Release. Grand Fireball Jutsu. A large fireball flew from Sasuke's mouth and headed towards the snake Sannin. Before he could dodge, Naruto's sand encircled him, preventing him from escaping the fireball. When the fireball hit, it created a small explosion that contained Naruto's sand. Naruto recalled his sand while Sasuke drew 2 kunai, as they watched the smoke, waiting for Orochimaru to appear. After a few minutes they relaxed, thinking that he had left. Suddenly Orochimaru appeared underneath Naruto, and punched him in the jaw before his sand could protect him, sending him flying before his sand caught him. Sasuke charged forwards, aiming a kunai at Orochimaru's neck. The snake dodged, and landed a punch to his stomach with a grin on his face. He jumped to evade the sand Naruto launched at him before biting his finger, and drawing blood before going through hand seals before slamming his hand onto the tree branch that he landed on. A large green-scaled snake appeared under the snake Sennin before launching itself at Naruto with its mouth opened wide to eat him, while Orochimaru went after Sasuke, who had gotten up. Naruto cursed before using his sand as a springboard to dodge before biting his finger, then going through hand seals. He too slammed his hand on a tree branch. A dark blue kitsune with silver-tipped ears and tails and 3 tails appeared under Naruto. You are called Naruto-sama, the female kitsune asked. Yes, Tsum-chan. I need you to take care of the snake before joining me to take care of the snake Sannin. The now named Tsum nodded before lunging at the snake with a hungry grin on her face, as Naruto used his sand to fly towards Orochimaru and Sasuke. Fire Release. Dragon Fire Technique. Naruto looked on as Sasuke used the fire jutsu down the wire that he had used to trap Orochimaru to a rock. When the attack connected, Sasuke grinned, but it was wiped off with Naruto's next words. Don't celebrate Sasuke-san yet. This is the snake Sannin. He is just playing with us. If he wanted to, he could kill us before we could blink. Sasuke gritted his teeth as he looked at Naruto. He was watching the smoke cloud that his jutsu had made, but he could see that he was also watching the surrounding forest. Kukuku is a very good Sasuke-kun, but you should listen to Naruto-kun. I am one of the Sannin for a reason. Both the genins next snapped towards their left to see Orochimaru rising from a tree branch. Once he was fully revealed, Naruto grinned before flashing through hand seals. Orochimaru watched with interest on his face before his instincts screamed at him to move. He obeyed them, and was able to dodge some who would have ripped his neck to shreds. Iron Sand, and Lightning Release, Black Lightning Dragon Jutsu. The snake turned towards Naruto, and saw his sand gather around him, and take the form of a dragon. The dragon roared, as its red eyes looked at him before lightning crackled around the dragon. It roared once more before Naruto willed it to attack. The dragon did. Orochimaru jumped through trees to dodge the dragon, but it proved to be useless, as it just smashed through them with the lightning burning the wood. The dragon suddenly put on a burst of speed, and opened its mouth before biting down on him. Orochimaru let out a scream, as the dragon's teeth dug into his skin, and the lightning set painful bursts into him. Naruto smiled, as he panted. He finally got him. His smile dropped when Orochimaru turned to mud. He cancelled his jutsu, and recalled his sand to him. Sasuke-san, do you see the team? No, and my Sharingan can't locate his chakra signature. The Uchiha spoke up, as he looked around, though he did give Naruto a jealous and angry look. Naruto nodded, as he tried to regain his breath. He froze when he heard a chuckle. He turned to see Orochimaru behind him. He quickly launched his sand at him, but he dodged before he punched Naruto in his chest, sending him flying into a tree. Naruto groaned at the impact before looking at the snake. He saw his neck stretch towards him before he bit him on his neck. Orochimaru looked to see that the curse mark took the shape of 3 foxes circling each other. That is new. Must be because of Kyuubi. Orochimaru removed his fangs before retreating his neck, as Naruto's sand returned, and formed a sphere around him. Orochimaru grinned before shooting his neck towards Sasuke, and biting him on his neck, as well. He was pleased to see it take the shape of 3 coma marks. Orochimaru turned when he sensed the chakra signature approaching. He saw Sasuke and Naruto's teams enter his sights. What did you do to them? Sakura asked, as she checked on Sasuke, who was sweating, and seemed to be silently screaming. Shino and Hinata held back on checking up on their own teammate until Orochimaru left. Orochimaru let out a chuckle before saying, I just gave them a gift, if you will. They will seek me out for power. Until then, kiddies. With that, he sank back into the tree branch, and the other genin relaxed before Shino and Hinata rushed to the sphere that covered Naruto. It seemed to sense them before it slowly fell apart before taking the shape of his 3 gourds. Shino-kun will seal the gourds into a scroll, and I will carry Naruto-kun. Shino nodded, as he pulled out a scroll, and unrolled it to show 9 storage seals on it. He had made it for moments like this. Since Naruto was the only one who could unseal or seal his gourds back into his blood storage seals, he had made this to carry them in case he was unable to reseal them. Once he had them sealed, he turned to Hinata, and nodded. Hinata returned it before picking up Naruto, and putting him on her back. They walked over to Sakura and Kiba, who they had been able to wake up along with Akamaru. Sakura-san? Hinata asked, as they neared them. Yeah? Could we join you until Naruto wakes up? It will be safer this way. Sakura turned to Kiba to see what he thought. Sure, I don't mind. Plus they can help us watch over Sasuke, he said, as Akamaru backed in agreement from his head. Sakura turned to them, and nodded before asking Kiba to pick up Sasuke. He did, though he did do reluctantly, before they headed towards a clearing a ways off with a big tree that was uprooted that they could put Sasuke and Naruto under until they awakened. 4th day in forest. Come on, Dosu. When are we going to strike? A boy with a sound headband asked another boy that was hunched over and covered in bandages with what appeared to be fur covering his back. Soon, Zaku. Can be ready. We will strike in 1 hour. They nodded before they returned to watching Team 8 and Team 7. They had a mission from their leader, Orochimaru, and they would complete it. Kill Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. With Team 7 and 8 an hour later, Shino-kun, Kiba-kun, and Sakura-san, we have company, Hinata said, as she had her Dijitsu activated. The conscious members of Team 7 and 8 exited the tree to see 3 sound ninja. Alright, wake up Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Zaku spoke up with arrogance in his voice. The 4 rookies looked at each other before getting into fighting stances. Dosu snorted before saying, You really think you can beat us? In response, Hinata launched forward, aiming to disable the arm with the metal device on his face. Dosu dodged before pulling his hand back, and prepared to fire his melody arm. He was unable to do so when Kiba rushed him with a slash of his claws to his midsection. While that happened, Shino had his bugs circle around to the only female member of the team, while Sakura stayed back to protect Sasuke and Naruto from stray objects. No one noticed the purple chakra that slowly appeared around Sasuke's body, or the red chakra that surrounded Naruto's own curse mark. Mindscape. Naruto let out a pained groan as he awoke in his mindscape. Once he looked around, he was laying under a tree. He stood up and looked around before heading off towards his right. After a few minutes, he found Hitomi in her giant fox from licking her lips. Hey Tommy-chan, what are you doing? Said person turned towards him before smiling, and turning back to her human form with her tails waving behind her. Hello Naruto-kun. I was just having a small snack. Naruto raised an eyebrow before asking, and may I ask what it was that you ate? Her smile turned into a grin, as she said, oh just a certain snake. Seeing her container's confusion, she explained. You see, when that Hebe team put that seal on you, he also put in a small part of his own soul that would have slowly corrupted you. I was able to find him before he was able to do any damage. Naruto nodded slowly before saying, what will happen to the rest of the seal? She walked up behind him, and wrapped her arms around his neck, as she whispered, the seal will just dissolve by the time you awake. Naruto turned his head slightly before saying, thank you Tommy-chan. She pouted, as she said, on Naruto-kun, don't I get a prize for helping you? What do you want? He asked with a raised eyebrow, as he turned fully towards her. Hitomi only grinned before pulling him towards her, and giving him a gentle lustful kiss. Naruto's eyes widened before they slowly closed, and he returned it, as he wrapped his arms around her waist. Her tongue slid against his lips asking for entrance, which Naruto happily gave. Their tongues wrestled with each other before they separated. Hitomi had a smile on her face, as did Naruto, as they pulled air back into their lungs. My prize is your first kiss, Naruto-kun. Now we will talk later. Your team is in trouble because Uchiha can't control his curse mark. Naruto nodded before giving her one quick kiss before leaving his mindscape. Hitomi put her fingers to her lips, as she smiled. Yes, we will talk later, and maybe have Kurenai join our talk, and get this out of the way faster. With that she laid down by a nearby tree, and went to sleep. Reality. Team 7 and 8 could only look in wonder, and slight horror, as Sasuke pulled Sokka's arms out of its sockets. One moment they had been fighting the sound genin when Sasuke stood up with purple chakra, and a dark aura around him. Then he vanished in a burst of speed before appearing behind Zaku with both hands in his grasp, as he pulled them. Sasuke let a dark grin appear on his face, as he turned towards Kin and Dosu. His grin grew bigger before he sped towards Dosu with his hand outstretched, as he reached for his neck. Suddenly a clawed hand wrapped around his wrist, stopping him on the spot. He turned to see Naruto holding him with little effort, though he did look different. His once slitted sapphire blue eyes that hypnotized many were now crimson red with a black slitted pupil. His nails were now clawed like Kiba, only sharper and stronger. His hair was wilder, and looked like fur. All in all it was an intimidating image. You should stop now, Sasuke-san. They can no longer fight, Naruto said in a deeper and beast-like tone. To enforce this he squeezed harder on Sasuke's wrist, making him cry out, and his curse mark withdrew. Sasuke painted, as he dropped to the ground holding his wrist, as Naruto turned to Dosu and Kin. Leave your scroll, and take your teammate and leave. They nodded, their heads with fear clear in their eyes before doing so. Once they were gone, Naruto let Hitomi's chakra recede back into the seal. He picked up the earth scroll they left before throwing it towards Kiba, who caught it. You don't want it? Kiba asked, confusion clear in his voice, as he looked at the scroll before looking at Naruto. Naruto only grinned before saying, we already have both our scrolls. Kiba nodded, as Naruto turned to his teammates who were looking at him with a look that said, what did you just do? Naruto sighed before saying, I will explain once we get to the tower, and have some privacy. They nodded before Naruto turned to Kiba. See you at the tower, Kiba-san. Kiba nodded before Naruto jumped into the forest with Hinata and Shino right behind him. After a few hours they arrived at the tower. Once they entered, Naruto took out the two scrolls before tossing one towards Shino. They nodded at each other before opening them at the same time. Quick, Shino-san throws them away. It's a summoning scroll. Shino did so, trusting his teammate, and Naruto did the same a second later. As the two scrolls overlapped each other in an X-like formation, a smoke cloud erupted. When the smoke cleared they saw their sensei smiling at them. Well, it looks like you made it with a day to spare, Kurenai said, as she folded her arms. Good to see you, Kurenai-heim. Naruto enjoyed the blush that appeared on her cheeks. We would have been here sooner, but we ran into Orochimaru. Kurenai let out a small gasp as she looked at Hinata and Shino for confirmation before turning back to Naruto. Don't worry, sensei. I will tell you how it went when I was done talking to Hinata-chan and Shino-san about my friend. Kurenai looked confused before her eyes widened in realization. She nodded before leading them to the room that they would be staying in. Once they were comfortable, Kurenai left to give them some privacy. Once the door was closed, Naruto flashed through hand seals before he touched the wall that was next to the bed that he was sitting on. The room walls glowed blue before it died down. Alright, before I begin, Shino-san, can I have my gourds back? Shino nodded before removing the sealing scroll and unsealed the 3 gourds. Naruto smiled seeing them before resealing the 2 back in his forearm seal, and setting his main gourd next to his bed. Alright, now that is done, I want you both to tell me what you both know of the Kyuubi. Both looked confused at the statement, but they went along with it. Hinata decided to go first. The Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked Konoha 13 years ago. No one knows why the Biju attacked the village, but it was able to destroy a vast amount of our forces. And the village before the Yondaime Hokage was able to defeat it at the cost of his life. Shino nodded when Naruto looked at him, as if silently asking if he agreed. Very good, Hinata-chan. Unfortunately, you are only half right. Both looked even more confused, wondering what this had to do with their teammate. No mortal, no matter how powerful, can kill a Biju. So Yondaime did the next best thing. He sealed it. His teammates' eyes widened at that information. Unfortunately, there is only one thing that can hold the Kyuubi, as an inanimate object would just break seconds after the sealing. A child. Hinata's eyes started to widen at that, as he could see where this was going while Shino seemed to become quieter. Naruto could only sigh at this before continuing. That child was me. I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto lowered his face and waited for the screaming to start. So he was completely caught off guard when Hinata jumped at him while crying into his chest. He looked at Shino confused, as he wrapped his arms around her, trying to get her to calm down. Once she sat down on her bed before saying, I don't hate you, Naruto-kun. If you have been able to live through almost the entire village's hatred and still stay sane, then you have my respect. Naruto looked surprised, and Hinata giggled before saying, if you expect me, a Hyuga, to not notice the villagers' looks, then something is wrong with you. Naruto looked sheepish before looking at Shino. It is illogical to hate you, Naruto-san. You have in no way shown that you are the Kitsune, and if I did, then I would be a hypocrite. Naruto just laughed, as tears fell down his cheeks. Once they stopped, and he calmed down, a genuine smile appeared on his face, as he said 2 words. Thank you. The end. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.